this concept of an ultimate carry revolver really plays well with the Smith & Wesson J-frame. I mean, the J-frame is iconic. It's been around since 1950. It was originally the Chief Special. It's really the small revolver that really defines concealed carry. So in the summer of 2022, Smith & Wesson and their management team came down to LIPSEY'S to visit with us. And one of the topics that came about was special projects. Obviously we've had a great reputation in the industry of doing special edition type guns, and Smith & Wesson was interested in pursuing some of those projects with us. And after we talked for a little while, we ascertained that they had some production time available in the J-frame lineup of guns. And so one of the things that we really emphasized on our side is that we just didn't want to do a Cerakoted model or just a finish change. We wanted to actually do a true ultimate J-frame. Some might say, why in 2024 are we putting so much effort into a revolver? And when it comes for off-body carry, deep concealment, ankle carry, pocket carry, a small frame revolver is still really your best option. And what we wanted to do was optimize that platform with some features that make it as adaptable as some of the semi-automatic small pistols that are out in the market today. So when Smith & Wesson agreed to do a special project with us on the J-frame, I really wanted to do something that had some serious upgrades. I've been carrying a J-frame Smith 442 for 25 years. And really since 1950, the J-frame hasn't really evolved a whole lot in the features. Yeah, we've had different finishes and different hammer configurations, stuff like that, different construction materials. But it still had the really crude, rudimentary sights. The triggers have been fairly heavy on them, and the grips have been skinny and really honestly kind of hard to handle. And I really wanted to address all of those things that people have over all these years have kind of complained about on the small frame revolver. And the first thing we did is with the sights. With the old style guns, you can't adjust them at all. They are what they are. Whatever they're regulated to bullet weight wise, that's what you're stuck with. And we wanted something that you could not only have some adjustability, but you have really high visibility. So we worked with XS Sights on developing a front tritium night sight with a lime green ring around it. So it's really highly visible. It's a 140 width front sight, and we got Smith & Wesson to do a U-notch serrated black rear sight that's got a 160 width notch. So it's a really clean sight picture. It picks up really fast, highly visible. And we also wanted to make sure that those sights were regulated for the very popular defensive rounds of today. The old guns usually were regulated for 158 grain ammunition and would shoot really low with 125, 135 grain stuff. So we wanted to make sure that these sights were dialed in perfectly to 10 to 15 yards with the Spear 135 grain gold dot short barrel load. These things are spot on with that load. They happen to also be spot on with the 148 grain wad cutters, which are the two really probably best options out there for the small frame revolver. In the 32 H&R Magnum, we made sure that the sights were regulated with the 85 grain hollow point ammunition and also with 100 grain wad cutters or semi-wad cutters that are running about 800 to 850 feet per second. Another thing I really wanted to address was the grip. A lot of people end up having to put an oversized rubber grip on the gun to handle the recoil. The standard boot grip style grips are really concealable, but they really are not that fun to shoot. One thing that I think a lot of people will have an issue with too is that the reach from the trigger to the grip is pretty short. And so if anybody with anything other than really small hands, the gun just doesn't sit right in your hand when you grab it. So we wanted to add a little bit of material to the back strap of the grip. So we worked with VZ grips, and they were very accommodating. We went through several iterations where we had a boot length grip with a covered back strap, and eventually we worked it up to where we have a high horn grip style so that the actual grip goes all the way to the top of the horn of a Centennial style Smith & Wesson. So this enables you to get a much higher hold on the gun, and it reduces the recoil because now the recoil is spread across the web of your hand much better. We also had them relieve the left side of the grip for speed loader use as well. So these grips were probably the one thing that we did the most test and evaluation with. Another issue we wanted to address with the J-frames is we wanted to have a better trigger pull. A lot of times these guns have fairly heavy triggers. They're double action only, so there's no way to make it any lighter than what it is. And so Smith & Wesson went in and redesigned some of the geometry of the hammer and the trigger and redid some of the springs in there to make a really smooth, consistent trigger pull. One other touch that we added to the Ultimate Carry series of J-frames is an endurance package on the J-frames. Smith & Wesson had been working on doing some endurance enhancements for the J-frame and finally used this project to implement them. One of the main things is now they have titanium pins instead of the aluminum pins. So it really makes the durability of these guns much better. So being that this is the Ultimate Carry gun, we also had to have some custom touches done to it. So the first thing we did was Smith & Wesson chamfered the charge holes. So it's much easier to get the rounds in there. You can even load wad cutters with a speed loader fairly well, which is hard to do with a non-chamfered cylinder. We also beveled the front of the cylinders, so when you're going in and out of the holster, you have a smoother transition. So there's going to be 4 models of the Ultimate Carry. We're going to have a 642 and a 442 in 38 Special, and then a 632 and a 432 in the 32 H&R Magnum. The one thing I was very, very excited to do was to add the 32 H&R Magnum back into the J-frame lineup. The 32 H&R Magnum came out in the 1980s, and it's just been kind of hanging out there, and the guns that Smith & Wesson chambered in that cartridge from years past demand big premiums these days, because the guys who are really in the know that that is an ideal cartridge for a Smith & Wesson J-frame, especially the Airweights. It's a lot less recoil. You get that 6th round over the 5-shot, and you can also shoot 32 Smith & Wesson long or 32 Smith & Wesson through it. So it makes a great training round for somebody who's recoil sensitive or just want to put a lot of volume through an Airweight gun. During this process, we took multiple trips to Smith & Wesson and had progress reports on how everything was going. And they really did a great job to make sure that every little detail that we wanted got done. We had several industry partners that we worked with on this project. XS Sights did a fantastic job making the exact front sight that we wanted. VZ Grips, they were wonderful to work with. They were very patient with all our little minuscule requests and changes on the grips over the course of the project and the testing. We also worked with Lost River Ammunition to develop a fantastic 32 H&R Magnum load. He's doing a powder-coated 100-grain wad cutter at 800 feet per second that shoots like a laser beam and hits it directly to the sights. So not only did Smith & Wesson come down to help us validate and shoot these guns, we had a couple of industry legends came down. We had Daryl Bolke and Brian Eastridge, and they came and helped us shoot these guns to make sure the sight regulation was just the way we wanted it. We shot it everywhere from point blank range out to 25 yards, and we made sure that the sights were perfect for both the 32 H&R Magnum and the 38 Special.
I'm very excited to be launching this Ultimate Carry project that we've been working on for a while. Jason and his team have been amazing to work with. J-frame has been one of the top, most reliable selling self-defense guns in the world. It is an incredible shooting platform, actually giving that J-frame reliability, the shootability that you're looking for, and that perfect concealed carry gun. One true selling point of this Ultimate Carry gun is being able to offer the consumer that ultimate carry, but also at an affordable price.
The objective of the Ultimate Carry project was to develop the best defensive J-frame revolver Smith & Wesson can make. Ultimate Carry revolvers feature an upgraded endurance package that contains specific internal parts that are designed to improve both performance and durability.
There's really 2 different customers for the Ultimate Carry series of J-frames. The first one is a guy who's already carried a J-frame for years. He might have a 642 that's been in his pocket or an ankle holster for the last 20 years, but didn't have the upgrades that the Ultimate Carry has. So really, this gives them an excuse to buy a new gun that already has better sights, a better grip, and a better trigger out of the box. The second customer is a person who's really maybe a novice, and that person is better suited with a revolver, but maybe would have struggled with the standard gun that has bad sights, has a heavier trigger pull, and maybe too much recoil for the sensitive recoils person. Now they got the option of a 32 H&R Magnum version that gives them an extra round and also has the ability to shoot their really soft shooting 32 Smith & Wesson long loads that allow them to be successful right out of the box.